Between 2012 and 2017, the Walnut Grove Gators played in the BC High School Provincial Basketball Championship title game 3 out of 6 years. They were all teams with huge fan support, great coaching, and loaded with talent. And today on Phone Calls with Friends, I get to talk to head coach from that era, George Bergen. Let's see what Coach Bergen has to say. Morning, George. I've been really excited to have this one for a number of reasons. It's episode 2 of Phone Calls with Friends. And when I started making a list of guests we possibly have, you were one of the first ones that popped up for a number of reasons. Like, one, you've had some of the best moments here through the high school basketball championships. I don't think anybody can deny that. But 2, you've sort of hit the Walnut Grove games, have sort of hit a lot of milestones for both me and LEC. So my first tournament was the 2012 tournament. That was my first introduction of seeing the BC High School Basketball Championships live. And you guys gave us a heck of a show that time. And that's sort of what got me fully hooked on it over the last nine years now. So that one's a real special one to me. And of course, you know, following up in 2013 when it happened all over again, it's all really meant a lot to me to go through it. So I think everybody kind of knows what happened in 2012. So let's kind of jump to the last few seconds of that game right off the bat and talk about it. Crooks hits a big jump shot with 2.8 seconds left. I think everybody's pretty familiar with Howard Samura's call.
Oh, they get the rebound at Crooks. Crooks wants the shot. He hits it. He hits it with 2.9 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
And then you've got to call a timeout and bring it back. And I know for myself, as someone that's coached, I think that especially with younger people, sometimes managing emotions is more difficult than managing, you know, the actual game or strategizing, is keeping heads in the game. So you want to just hop in there for me with a few seconds left in that game and let me know what was kind of going on the bench and what your thoughts were getting everybody ready to go back on the floor.
Well, we had a young team in 2012 and really only 3 seniors, and the rest of them were grade 11s. And what happened was, when the Fox guy hit the shot, we had a timeout, and I tried to keep everybody calm in the huddle. I thought we were fairly calm, and we decided to go with a play that involved Cohee, and he drove the baseline, and we thought he got fouled. That's what we were hoping for. I told the boys in the huddle that we wanted an attack on the rim, and if we could get that with Jaden out of this play that we drew up, that'd be perfect. But referees, often happens at the end of the game. They just kind of swallow their whistle, and hey, it is what it is. And I think that looking back on the history of what happened at Walnut Grove, in 2012, we lost that gut-wrenching game right at the end. But in 2013, we came back and won. And that, to me, is a sign of a team that is on a mission.
To stay on 2012 for just a minute, is I believe actually Cohee was a grade 10, wasn't he?
He was.
In 2012, so he's one of your younger guys. And you guys weren't a super high seed coming into that tournament. So you'd overachieved already a little bit just to get to the... If I remember correctly, Terry Fox wasn't a really high seed either. It was one of the lower seeded finals between 2 teams. But the other thing that I really remember clearly about that is even more, like I remember there's a shot that we have of Cohee sitting on the baseline kind of like hunching over, and then Ryan Sclater is sort of jumping in the front ground kind of fist pumping. But what I really remember, and it's probably not a great thought to go back for you, is how crushed your team was. Like I just remember the defeat on their faces and how upset everybody was. So for them to come out of that, like obviously it was a terrible, you want to have it back. And I think when you come to a game, when it comes down to the final shot like that, you've got to, it can go either way at that point. But what did you say to your guys after the game, to try to console them after they come so close?
Well, number one, first of all, in sport, and I don't care which sport we're talking about, there's a very, very fine line between losing and winning, or winning and losing. And we see that in the Super Bowl. We see that everywhere. And so we were very, very close. Yeah, we had overachieved. We had beaten Van College in the semifinal, and we had confidence. But we also, I think I had preparation with the boys that win or lose, we've had a good season. And so what I told them at the end of the game was, look, this is part of playing sport, and there's nothing we can change about it. the ref didn't make a call, and we have to move on. And to me, that's what it's about. Is you move on, and you forget about losing, and you move on and prepare for the next year, which is what we did.
It was such a good while. I actually got swept up in the Terry Fox crowd after that, rushing the floor. There's a pretty funny shot of me stuck in the middle of it all. But for myself, that experience was unlike anything I'd ever been through, and I couldn't wait for the next season. So now, of course, we go to 2013, and you guys come back with essentially the same team, a year older, a year wiser. And if I remember right, that was that 2012 year, December 2012. That year was the first TBI tournament where we had Findlay Prep up. And you guys they just selected straight out you guys and White Rock Christian to play them on back-to-back nights. So the Walnut Grove White Rock Christian final was sort of predicted from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, it was. And actually, just to go in a brief way, go through that season, we had met White Rock Christian at the Terry Fox, the Legal Beagle, in the final. We lost in double overtime. It was also a gut-wrenching loss. Boys weren't happy, which is a good sign. And then we played White Rock Christian again at the Emerald, the Vancouver College final, and lost again in overtime. So, again, we weren't happy. And then we got to the Fraser Valleys, and, of course, we took control of that game in the third quarter. And then we met again in the BCs. Now, that BC 2013 game was a really interesting game. Because White Rock Christian was a very good team. Those 5 guys, the 5 starters, had been together for 5 years. They were a solid team.
If I remember correctly, too, they weren't subbing much. Like, they just left those 5 guys on the floor for the whole tournament.
They brought one guy in.
And then another thing, if I remember, like, they were coming down to the buzzer in all their games leading up to the final. So you have to think that by the time they got there, those guys have had a long 4 days of playing basketball to get down to that point.
Well, I always say, it's 4 days. And as you witnessed, Tyler, the LEC, that BC championship, you have to be ready every day. And you have to win every day in order to win the whole thing. And that's a difficult thing to do. And so everything has to go right. Your key guys can't be injured. They can't be sick. You got to be playing at a high level. And both teams, I thought, played at a high level. And as you recall, the score 53-all with about a minute 52 left in the game. And we had a timeout, and that's when it changed. And in the last minute 50, we scored 6 points and completely shut White Rock down for the win.
One of the key moments, of course, being like I thought it was one of these things that happens in this tournament. Like one of the first girls' tournaments we held, of course, was the South Cam Brookswood final when Brookswood lost before coming back on their 3 straight. And one of the things I like about this is the chance we get to see redemption. And I thought Cohee breaking that tie with the spin move up the middle was just such a nice redemption coming back from the play that ended it the previous year.
I think he did that probably 4 or 5 times that game, but that one sure was a highlight film, and I think they still show it. But I also thought there was a tremendous play by one of our unsung heroes, David Wold-Merriam, who blocked. Tyus was going to the hole. I thought it was right in front of my bench, and I thought, oh, this guy's getting a layup. And David came and blocked Tyus, pinned it up on the glass, and I thought that was a very, change of the game kind of thing.
And it's so now I've got another little story that I've heard rumors about. Maybe you can shed some light on it. You guys got a box of chocolates in your team picture at the end of that event. So why don't you go back and just give us the brief history on that box of chocolates?
Brief history, I'll just say that one of the greatest basketball people of all time, John Lee Kutnikoff, he's an older gentleman. He kind of, we were playing men's league and I was still playing, and he kind of tied into me, and one thing led to another, and I got him down on the bus, and he started working on the mental part of the game with our players. And lo and behold, and that started at the beginning of the season. Lo and behold, John Lee showed up in Kelowna at the Western Canada tournament, and he talked to the hotel people, and we got like a ballroom. And anyway, we were in there doing this mental stuff with John. And at the end of it, he came out and he pulled out a wine glass and he says, "This is what you're playing for." It was symbolic of the trophy that was to come in the next few weeks. And then he pulled out 3 pairs of socks and he threw them at each one of the coaches and he said, "You coaches, time to pull up your socks." And lastly, he pulled out a box of chocolates in a Valentine shape, because Western Canada is right there at Valentine's Day. And he said, "This is a box of chocolates, and you got to play with heart." And actually, I thought we had been playing with heart, but it was a symbolic thing that we then took with us. We won the Western Canada, and from there on in, it started off in Jared, my assistant coach, my son's bag, and then it went to some of the players. I lost track of it. And at the BCs in the final night, it showed up again. And of course, it was still sealed. And in that LEC locker room, we opened her up, and you probably heard the hooting and the hollering and the celebrating. It was pretty special.
Yeah, all well deserved as well. So now let's, again, like what I was saying is that some of the milestones for us. So now in 2017, when you guys are back, for LEC, that was a big jump in technology for us. And we here treat that like our own personal championship. Like, we want to put on a show that people won't forget. And that was
the first. You are doing that.
Well, I appreciate that. But our first, so that was our first time to do the basketball tournaments under our new lights and with the ribbon. So we had it all planned. And if you go to our YouTube page, actually, there's a clip on there. It's just called The Moment, and it's just a few seconds clip, and people ask me all the time why it's there, but it's right when the floor turns to green to introduce you guys.
Now let's meet the Walnut Grove Gators.
But that was the hit. The way we had to do it, like, I knew as soon as it turned green, everything was going to go well for the night. And that's one of my favorite LEC memories. So to kick off that night in 2017, which turned out to be a great game, was just a huge moment for us at LEC as well. So that night's really special to me, that one. And then, of course, you had such a good battle with so many good players on both sides of the floor. So, and some of those players you'd been with for quite a while, or been with Walnut Grove, like James Woods specifically. We've seen him grow up through here, I think, right from districts young. Yeah. And so it was a lot of familiar faces. So can you just tell me a little bit about maybe how the prep was maybe a little different going into 2017 and what your thoughts were heading into that game?
Well, interesting. The 2017 winning came as a result of losing in 2016. So in 2016, we met Kelowna again in the semifinal, and we recall that night. We were undermanned. Kelowna had lots of good players, and especially at the guard positions. They had 6 guards, and they came at you all night long. And we kind of gave them a run in the third quarter. At the end of the third quarter, it was a very tight game. But then in the fourth quarter, they just wore us down. And we didn't have enough guard play that year. James Woods was a junior. And basically, we were relying on Ty a lot. And, of course, they were 2-2-1 trapping everywhere. And it just kind of got to us in the fourth quarter, and we lost the game.
If there's one thing, I thought that Kelowna had made a great coaching switch. They really trapped you guys. You started struggling to come out of your own end. They were pressing so hard, and there were some turnovers. And I thought all credit to Kelowna on that. You could see that they realized they were in trouble and made a switch. Yeah. And they were just a good team that year.
They were really good. They were loaded with guards, and they kept throwing 2 new guards in every 3 minutes. But like basketball in a sense is a little bit like golf in the sense like pressure. And the fourth quarter, it's more difficult to do certain things than it is in the first quarter. And whether it's making a free throw or bringing the ball up the court, the pressure is it wears on you. It's kind of like I say in golf, the 8-foot putt to win a championship on the 18th hole is a lot more difficult than on the first hole. And so the fourth quarter, that's where it really shows. And again, going to the two championships in the fourth quarter and in the dying minutes, it now puts the pressure on the opponent. So having lost in the 2016 semifinal, now in the 2017, we again met Kelowna. And, Tyler, the hardest thing is to beat the same team over and over. And this was our fifth meeting with Kelowna. They're a very good team. They may have the best player in the province in Mason Beausier. And he lit us up in the third quarter by, I think it was 17 points. It was a tight game. But in the fourth quarter, with about 3:50 left, we changed up our defense, kind of like Kelowna did on us. And first of all, in the timeout, I tried to stay calm with the guys. The game's tied, and I made a change. I put Brett, who's a 6'5" kid, on Beausier, which we did that for two possessions, and then we flipped right into the 1-3-1 funnel. It's a half-court funnel defense, and that changed the game completely because Beausier couldn't get an open look. We were keying on him, and he was throwing it to his teammates, and they were clanging him off the rim. So that really was a momentum changer for us. And I'm trying to remember the score, but I think it was 65-all. And in the last 3 minutes, 50 seconds, we went on a 13-0 run to win it. So it was very difficult.
No, that's good. Now, I know this is a real difficult question to ask, but is there any one of those years, like is 13 or 17, does either stand out to you more? Did either one feel better?
I wouldn't say either one feels better. They both feel fantastic. I had good players, and the players were just awesome. I'd say 2012 was in the same ballpark as those two, just in terms of team chemistry and things like that. They overachieved and didn't have the talented players as much as we did in 2013 and 17, but so I'd throw 2012 in there as well.
Well, one of the things that really stands out to me, and we'll dig it up for this, is that there's a shot we have of Mitch McPhail really in a timeout, just yelling at the players, and you can really see, that was, to me, that was just a great shot of all the heart that came out in it, and you could see the passion that they were all playing with, and the players were all attent to him, and you could just see that they were coming out to win. And I always thought of 2012 year, that was a very monumental moment, just watching how the team was coming together. It wasn't you coming in there to the huddle; it was the team doing it.
Yeah, and Mitch was an 11th grader, and so he Mitch was maybe the best role player we ever had. He set hard screens and rebounded and played defense and was a team leader and a team rah-rah guy. And, I can't say enough about Mitch and guys over the years that, maybe aren't key players, but are still key members of the team. And he certainly played that role in a big way.
Well, I don't want to keep you all morning, but I've got one big question now that it's Grandpa George. Are we going to see you back here coaching 15 years with those guys on a team? Or are the coaching days done for you?
Well, I hope that's the case, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to be putting any pressure on the kids, but I guess in conclusion, I would say I really miss the whole business of being at school and coaching, but there comes a time and point, and for me that time was up. But we had something special at Walnut Grove. The culture which happened there was just really, really good because it was a tremendous support in many ways from a lot of different people.
Well, let's actually talk about that for just a second. Well, now that you brought it up, is that Walnut Grove has had one of the most consistent, and I understand they're just up the street for us, which has to help a little bit. But as far as getting painted up, noisemakers, packing out the end zone, familiar faces, I'm starting to recognize the same people coming back every year for the tournament. And it's just like, do you think that was there from the beginning, or did 2012 help spike that and become a basketball school? Or is it, because it really is incredible the support the school gets from its student body?
Yeah. Well, that would be another 1 hour conversation, but in a nutshell, the first 10 years at the school, I started at the very beginning. We built on things, and we did things like pep rallies, and we brought the elementary school kids in. And then I started doing last period of the day on a Friday afternoon, I'd bring in a Kitsilano or a St. George's or even Semiahmoo, and we'd play big games against top 10 schools. So, and then we ran a basketball marathon where we played all night long. And all of those kind of things, that's just a few of them, they built this culture, and the students got involved. We had community people that were elderly that just walked into the gym to come and watch us play. And it started developing a culture of success. And I always told the players it comes through a commitment from you. And, players had to be coachable, and they had to be willing to prepare. And then the pride and the excitement from all the Gators, it was there every night on big games. And it was a really, really fun culture to be a part of. So there's a real history there that, like I say, that's another discussion.
Well, like I can say, I can honestly tell you that Walnut Grove always sticks out in my mind as one of the first and foremost teams, and that from all these reasons: great championship games, great lead-up games, and the fan base that makes the experience here so fun. I have a lot of friends who call themselves sports fans that haven't been out to this yet. That's what I say. Until you've seen this, it's really not on a level with anything else, and it's especially when a team like Walnut Grove's playing and they fill the end zone with those guys, and they've got their water jugs and pans and noisemakers, and there's green paint. It's just I don't think you can really describe it unless you come and witness it for yourself once. So.
Yeah, correct. It's for me, it's such an exciting event, and what you guys do, and Jason and everybody, and yourself, Tyler, at LEC, that has really played into it. Yes, we're a local team, but there's other local teams as well, and we were fortunate, and we had a good situation, and like I say, to do that, you have to build up a culture that starts with administrators and people in the school that are willing to do the right things, to create good citizens in your school and good citizenship on your team. So all of that plays a part of it. But it was a lot of fun.
Well, and it's a lot of fun for us too, and I can't wait till next March. Just every year it gets better, so it's going to be. I'm pretty excited about it, and I know that you still at least linger about and check out the games, so we'll be seeing you then. But at any rate, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Second ever episode of Phone Calls with Friends, and it's been fantastic. I'm glad we caught up, and I'm sure I'm going to find another reason to call you back one day and talk more in depth about something.
Always a pleasure, Tyler.
All right, have a good morning, George.